Hey everyone, this is Greg. How are you today? This is our first video, and I thought I better make one at roughly the middle of the course. Well, we have 3 weeks to go, so I just want to kind of check in with you and let you know how things are going and how we're doing. I'm over at my mom's and we're watching the Olympics, so if you hear any shouting, it's because one of the U.S. skaters did one of those 15 times things when they go down. And anyway, we're really enjoying it. But I think the course is really going pretty well, and I know people feel a little stressed because there's so many new concepts coming at them, and but that's part of it. Getting the doctorate is pretty stressful, but I think everybody's going to succeed in the course and in the program. One of the things is an online course like this is not just a read it, do the assignment type of thing like a high school online history course. There has to be an interaction between the instructor and the course and the text, all combined to provide the best level of understanding. So last week when I gave the significance and the CLT assignment, that's because I've really reviewed those and had experience in the past, and they actually teach the concepts fairly well. I think I'm always working on them. For instance, in the course, when it says statistical significance is any value in the normal distribution that's away from the mean by 2 standard deviations or whatever, that's just not true. The thing you have to understand is that the text is written by a person. Different textbooks can have different ideas, but that's just not technically correct. And when you go into your dissertation, I have a pretty good reputation of having the students prepared to write a real clear, concise, quantitative dissertation, which actually is quite rewarding. And so I'm just going to help you through to the end so that when you get done, you can go, yeah, it was a little confusing, it was a little stressful, but I really feel like I've got a handle on it. Okay, so now I'm going to go over a couple of things here real quick. And then I'm going to talk about week 6, which is next week. Now, in the morning, I will put out, there's 3 assignments in the course for week 6. We are only going to do 2. And I am going to send them to you, and they will be very straightforward and clear. And that's when you're actually going to do the statistical test. You're going to test your hypothesis and see what your p-value is and all that, and do a simulated write-up in APA format. So you can, if it says it's a group assignment, you can do it as a group. I would encourage you also to do it also all by yourself, and then you can check with your group and see what your results are. But you really need to be competent at hypothesis testing, p-values, significance, that kind of thing. So we will work on that some more this week. So once again, there will only be 2 assignments next week and the journal. But there's 3 assignments in the course. I'm going to replace them by 2 simpler assignments, and I'll have that for you this morning. Okay, so where have we come so far? So let's say we start out with a research question. And a research question could be, teaching method A is better than teaching method B. Teaching method A is better than teaching method B. And so we practice writing these research questions. Now that question can't be answered directly, but it is a good question. Is phonics better than not phonics? Is case study method of teaching chemistry better than the other method? Okay, so then we set up a hypothesis. We have to have a hypothesis to test mathematically. And so let's say we set up a hypothesis to test this, and it says the mean final score on the test is equal, of group A is equal to the mean final score on the test of group B. Now, that specific hypothesis is testable. The research question's not testable. The hypothesis is, and this is the basis of educational research, is we have to have testable hypothesis. So we have a null hypothesis, which is that these means are equal. And you always start out with equality. And we have an alternative hypothesis, which is that these means are not equal. So the Greek letter mu there is the symbol for mean. My handwriting's a little weak tonight. Here's the alternative hypothesis, that the means are not equal. Now, when you take your two samples, so let's say you have a sample, one mean is 25 with a standard deviation of 5 and the sample is 15. One mean is 35 with a standard deviation of 6 and a sample size of 21. And you find that there is a difference in those sample means. Well, what does that indicate? That only indicates that the sample means are different. That does not give evidence that the population's means from which the samples came are different. And that's the goal of inferential statistics. That's why you're taking the course. So when you compare those two samples and you put it in the calculator, you get what's called a p-value. And a p-value in all research, if you research studies, is the probability of making a type 1 error. Now here's what that means. Let's say the means of the populations were equal, and you rejected that null hypothesis and said that the means were not equal. You would be making a type 1 error. Now, there's always a chance of making a type 1 error, but if the samples are different enough, then it's highly unlikely you're making a type 1 error. And that p-value is exactly the probability of making a type 1 error. So if your p-value is low, you reject the null hypothesis in favor of the alternative. And we're almost coming up on 7 minutes, and I found these YouTube videos after 9 minutes. It's pretty tough, so I'll keep going. But anyway, so you're going to practice that this week. Now, you can use SPSS if you have it installed, but I'm going to give you a tool for doing the first week's assignment, which is conducting a 2 independent samples t-test, which is almost like what you did in the significance assignment. And you can use that same calculator. Using online calculators to do statistical analysis is like using the calculator on any bank to calculate your mortgage. It's all the same. You don't have to use SPSS. If you can, it's a good idea. So we're going to be practicing how to do only 2 statistical tests this week, an independent samples t-test and a dependent samples t-test. And the 2 are different, but I'll make it very clear what the difference is, and we're doing the independent samples t-test first. So yes, it's a little confusing, but when you get the hypothesis testing part down, you'll start to see how it all fits together. So the other thing is, start to formulate your final project and look at the example projects I sent out and start to model that. It's a simulated chapter 3 and 4 of a dissertation, and the sections have to be filled out. So I think now you can read it and understand a little bit more what is in those models. So it will be I want to make the week a little lighter. That's why we're only going to have 2 assignments, not 3. And we'll make sure that we clearly understand them as we move forward. So hang in there. Ask any questions you want. I work Thursday night, so I'm not home. But feel free to call anytime. And I just appreciate all your hard work. So I know it's stressful. I've been doing this p-value thing for many years. So it's like playing chess. You just don't get it until you've been doing it for a while. It's like the Rubik's Cube, or my kids always say, "Why do you have such trouble recording an NFL football game?" Well, I just haven't done it enough. I just don't have it. And once you get experienced at the hypothesis testing, you will have it. So I appreciate your hard work. Contact me anytime. Sorry for the quality of the video. I just make them on my iPad. I've got about dozens of them up there on different topics, but this is just for you, and we will have a good week 6. Thank you, and everybody have a good evening. Okay, bye.